Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Lori, seconded by Tina to approve the agenda as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Jack, we'll read the district mission, vision, values, and also our collective commitment. Thank you, Jack.
Mission Bangor Pride, a small school building big futures. Vision, an innovative small school creating excellence through personalized learning and relationships for all. Values, student-centered, small class sizes, continuous improvement, professionalism, opportunities for all, safety, foster community, and sustainability. The Board of Education collective commitments are that as a member of the Bangor School Board, we will be active listeners who are open-minded, respectful, and inquisitive. Together with one collective voice, we are committed to forward thinking while strategically prioritizing our students, staff, and our community now and into the future.
Thank you. Public comment? Approval of the minutes from February 16th, regular meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held February 16th, open session.
Second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lori to approve the minutes from February 16th, regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. February 16th, closed session.
I'll make a motion to approve the February 16th closed session.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Lisa to approve February 16th, closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Students report. Come on down. Thank you for using the mic. Then our online listeners can hear as well. Thank you.
The middle and high school celebrated FFA week with dress-up days and lunchtime games. National Honor Society and Student Council hosted a blood drive in the gym on March 2nd. FCCLA is having a shake sale tomorrow during lunch for a fundraiser. Third quarter ends on March 30th. Band and choir leave for their trip on April 7th, and 7th grade will also be leaving for Poinette that day. The juniors took the ACT test last week. Prom is April 9th in here, and all high school students are invited to come to that.
The girls hockey team finished their season as state runner-ups. Evan Wolf finished his wrestling season as a state runner-up also. Gymnastics finished their season at state several weeks ago. Bowling completed their season at state 2 weeks ago. The girls basketball team lost in sectional finals to Highland, and the boys will be playing in the state semifinal game on Friday morning at approximately 10:45 versus Hurley.
The girls' basketball team had 7 girls mentioned for Scenic Bluffs All-Conference. The boys' basketball had 6 boys mentioned for Scenic Bluffs All-Conference. Taylor Jacobson signed her letter of intent yesterday to play basketball for Viterbo University next year. Landon Frysmith also signed his letter of intent on March 2nd to continue his bowling career at Clark University. Spring sports began last week, and meets and games will begin next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Congratulations, Taylor.
Next, we have the elementary and our whole school district, actually special ed presentation.
Yeah, I'm going to just real quickly kind of introduce this. I have been incredibly impressed this school year by the work that Mr. Chaplin is leading with this outstanding team of special education teachers, really moving the entire special ed program in Bangor forward to a more inclusive model. And it's just been really, really exciting to see. And I asked them to come and share some of that history and process moving forward. And I know that our staff over here is not all as excited to be here, is a little bit nervous. So there's no pressure here. year. This is really truly a highlight of the amazing work that you guys are doing and continue to do. So thank you for being here, and board will have the opportunity if you have any questions or comments for them as well. So thanks.
So I'm just up here to introduce Jeanette. She's going to lead the presentation. No, I'm just kidding. I told them I would lead most of the presentation. So this presentation is going to look at where special ed was in the past, where we currently are, and where we would like to see it go in the future. So I think it's a good reference for everyone. Ooh, I got a clicker. So the background on special education is prior to the 1960s, most kids with disabilities were forgotten or shut away and not talked about. And so another thing that happened with kids with disabilities, or everyone with disabilities, they thought those individuals should be involuntary sterilized so they couldn't have reproduction rights. And so that was continued through the 1950s and was legal actually in Wisconsin until 1978. I have a note up there that involuntary sterilization has never actually been formally overturned by the Supreme Court. Obviously, it's not practiced, but never formally been overturned. So that's the history on that. Background for special education in the school districts. Actually, the first school for special education was, I believe, in Pennsylvania, I want to say. It was like in 1899, it was a school for the deaf. But more broadly, so Congress made its first attempts to be involved with special education in the K-12 education system as part of the Second Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1966. And that gave some money to go along with that programming. Very small amount, as you can see, $3.5 million. It's one of those things where, hey, we have this idea, we'll help fund it for a little while, and then good luck. But so that's how it first got started. And then in 1973, there was another law, the Rehabilitation Act, granting civil rights to disabled individuals and required accommodations for those students in schools. And then what really kind of guides our special education programming, we look at a landmark law for that is in 1975. President Ford signed the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, which has morphed into Individuals with Disabilities Act, or IDEA is what funds and guides our programming today. So that guaranteed the free and appropriate public education for all students with disabilities. So that law was around for a long time and then was reauthorized again in, like I alluded to, in 1997 with some revisions. And again, it turned into the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, which kind of still governs what we do with students today. It emphasized individual education plans, or IEPs, for all students with special education needs, and also brought focus to the use of research practice, because prior to that as well, we'll put them in a room and we'll give them an education, but there wasn't really guidance of what to do with those students. So that really emphasized we're going to use research practices and actual methods to make sure that those students are receiving a proper education. And note on there, like hopefully some of you has previously seen this. It's not been reauthorized since 2004, was a little bit amended in 2015 with the Every Student Succeeds After ESSA. And so we're working with some outdated guidance. And so, anything from 2004, if you're working something for like using a computer from 2004, is probably not going great. You maybe can get the basic things done, but some of the guidance that governs what we're doing today, we're really working off a very old law. So that's the overall presentation of what special education. So here's what special education, what I found in I don't claim this is extensive, but this is what I found. Special education, the first thing that I found for students in Bangor were in 1970 and 71. You can see here that they actually used to publish who was in special education. I'm hoping I'm not violating any rights because this was actually published in our yearbook. So, and there's no names associated with that. So this was the earliest documentation I found that we had students in special education in 1970, 71. They were housed in the white building and also in the annex. And I believe Mrs. Harper was taught in the annex, or oh, okay. Mrs. Anderson taught in the annex. So come a long way from that. Our first special education teacher was Larry Werner in 1970-71. And I'm not sure if he was actually employed by the district or he was hired as an outside, because he was not actually in the faculty section in the yearbook. So not sure where exactly he was hired through. This was the first speech and language therapist in 1971-72, Sharon Friedman. Again, so as far as Bangor is concerned, I believe our programming has progressed like many other programs across the country, where it was, all right, we're going to do what we were told to do. We're going to house them. We may not necessarily be forward thinking at the time, but we're going to do what was required by the law. And so it was separate classes away from their peers, and that's what we were going to do. But as we have progressed, previous to me as well, we're trying to say, okay, they need to be with their peers as much as they can. And so we're trying to progress that. And so what we're looking at is, okay, how do we do that? And so what the special education teachers have done in the past, it was, well, we're going, if they can only read at a first grade level, we're going to teach them at that level. Well, we know that the gap with their peers is going to continue to grow if that's how we do it. So in the last couple of years, we're taking the work that the general education teachers have been doing, looking at their essential learning outcomes, and okay, how do we teach those essential outcomes to our students with disabilities? And so that's what we've been working towards. The learning gaps continue with their peers, continue to exist, but we're looking at how do we close those gaps. And so in 2015-16, we went, the middle school, high school staff and I talked about, well, how can we integrate them more with their peers? Well, let's put them, we're not going to have them in separate classes for elective classes at all. And we're going to work on integrating them back with their peers in reading and math. And I think I talked to Todd and Michelle, and they were like, oh, I don't know. But I think we've seen that our students have stepped up, and the special education teachers at the middle school, high school, I don't think, and I don't want to speak for them, but I don't think they would like to go back to the previous method of pull-out classes. In 16-17, we hired a new special education 4K teacher because we had a larger population at that time for students in 4K, and they did a really nice job of taking the students with disabilities and keeping them in the classroom and try to make it a co-taught class. And then in 21-22, almost all of the middle school, high school students are in with their peers for all their general education classes. Now they may have a second dose with one of the special education teachers to work on those skill gaps, but they are in algebra 1 skill, or algebra skills 1, or they're in English 9, English 10, so forth. Elementary, we're still trying to work on that. We want to move that way, but like the middle school, high school just has a easier schedule because, okay, we're doing this at this time. Whereas the elementary, they integrate things all throughout the day, and we're working on, and Mike is doing a nice job of how do we work in the schedule to work in, not just special education, but all students, that we can make the schedule work. And so, you know, it comes down to, well, why do we want to do this? We want to do this because when we look at the research, we know that students in special education, the learning gap between their peers isn't closing. And that's not just in Bangor, that's across the state and across the nation. And so how do we close that gap? Well, if there was a single answer, everyone would probably do it. But when we look at the research, we know that when students with disabilities are integrated with their peers, they are going to have higher achievement. They're going to have better social skills. They're going to have fewer absences from school. They're going to have fewer referrals for disruptive behavior, and they have better outcomes for post-high school, whether that's independent living, whether that's post-secondary education. And so the steps that we've taken so far is, again, talking about putting kids back into with their peers for general education instruction. There have been benefits at the middle school, high school level. And again, I think that we don't want to go backward to having pull-up. Again, we do have some pull-out time to work on skills, but that is to work on the skill gaps versus, okay, we're not always trying to catch you up with your peers. The PLC process has helped us a lot because the general education teachers have worked really hard at what do we want them to know? Because we all know that the whole class, not everything is essential. And so when we talk about students with disabilities, we might not get those students to do everything in a class, but we are going to work tirelessly to get them to know the essentials. And that's really what we want them to do. The special education teachers, they are very versed in how do we differentiate things, that we can have our students get presented material maybe in a different way, and we can have our students with disabilities present how they know that information in a different way that still gets to the essential learning outcome. And then obviously, what do we do if they don't know it? And that's what our special education teachers are very good at. Okay, well, how are we going to teach it a different way, not just louder, slower? The staffing, I thank the board for increasing Tara's time this year because that has allowed the elementary to do a lot of different things, and they'll be able to talk about that more extensively than I can, but I'd like to thank the board for expanding that as much as you have. And then the continued professional development around the PLC process is helping us a lot, and we're going to continue to work on the co-teaching part and helping the general education teachers understand, okay, how do we do this? And that's going to be one of our biggest hurdles, but I think we can do a lot of things that are going to help that unknown for them. So that's enough of you hearing from me, because I think you want to hear from them more than you hear from me. So I'm going to turn it over to, they want to speak in teams. So the middle school, high school team will talk first. And if you have questions, so probably have them talk, say their prepared statement in the elementary. And then if you want to ask some questions or if you have things that you want to do from them after that. So.
Well, thank you for having us come because it's really important for us to share with our kids. I'm Michelle Harper. I teach middle school special education. I have been here the longest. Yeah, so I've been here since 1998. And I'm very excited to have seen all these changes and have them, basically go through this huge change of inclusion and, really watch how it has changed and basically seen it do nice work with our students. When I got here in Bangor, like Mr. Chaplin said, I actually had all pull-out classes, including science and social studies I taught to my students. So after about 2 years, I got my students back into the core area classes where those core area teachers who should be teaching their classes started teaching science and social studies, and I sent my teaching assistants in with them. And then we started working on all the other classes, like Mr. Chaplin said, on English and also on math education. About 10 years ago, I started teaming, I think around that area. Don't quote my dates. about team teaching with all the English department here. And that was really scary. I'm going to let you know when you say, okay, I have an 8th grader with a 2nd grade reading level, and we're going to sit and read and write with you at that table. I'm going to tell you that was really a nerve-wracking thing to not only put that student in that room for the first time, but as a teacher to say, you know, this is scary for you, but it's scary for me. What are we going to do? You know, but I'm going to tell you, all of our students deserve to be at that table, and all means all. And that's really, really important for all of us to really tell you that all means all in Bangor, and it's in all of our missions, and it's there for a reason, because really our students have something to say. And our teachers, let me just tell you, I work with great teachers in the middle school, and they have accommodated me, they have modified things for me, and they have shown up for me in ways like modifying tests where I don't have to tell them to. And our students have, like I said, these great ideas and voices in our classes, and they deserve to have them heard. And, you know, they bring them to our English classes, and they surprise us every single day with their ideas. And then we get to see that growth. And I guess that's what we really want to be able to tell you, is we are seeing that growth by having the inclusive environment. We're seeing it not only in their test scores, yes, their MAP scores are rising, and those are really important things. But we're seeing it really in the social aspect. We see it in the way that their confidence grows. And then I think the biggest thing that we see, as well as that, is you know, those transition things that are really important. When I transition my students up to her, you know, they have those relationships in the classroom, but ultimately we really want them to be employable. And they can't be employable if they have just sat in my room. So thank you for our opportunity.
Hi, I'm Todd Grant, middle school, high school special ed teacher. I work with primarily the emotional behavioral disability students. I remember clearly when Josh approached me and said, there's a group of your students and we're going to start including them. I remember that being a very scary thing also, because like Michelle, when I started, I had them for math. I had them for their social studies. The other special education teacher, Rosalie Johnson at the time, had them for English, and they just went back and forth. So if we had a bad day, I just had a bad day, she just had a bad day, and we could kind of keep it contained. And now it was like, well, we're going to put them out there. And it was kind of scary. But at the same time, it was an opportunity for these kids, for these students to show and grow. And it was really nice to see them step up. And all kids, if they're challenged, will rise to the occasion. I believe that, you know, if you ask, there's always a line, and if you just keep pushing that line and keep asking a little more, they will rise to that occasion. Now, it's not to say that the progress is always linear. I mean, it's not. We have our bumps, we have our ups and downs, but the general trajectory is always moving them forward. And hopefully we learn from the bumps, and the students learn from the bumps, and we go forward. The challenges with it that have come with it, I mean, like now I have one class that I just teach a small group, and I'm out and about and with students. The challenge with that has been managing the increased support that's needed, and with more kids being in the general education room, there's more support needs, and that's something. Managing that can always be a challenge sometimes, and it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for surprises during the day, because if something else happens, you're pulling from one to help another, and that can be kind of challenging. But overall, like Josh said, I wouldn't go back for as nervous as I was at the beginning of it. Like, okay, maybe it'll work. We weren't sure, or I wasn't sure, but we just kind of put it in there. I wouldn't go back now. just to see these kids progress, get better. And for me, you know, with the behavior students, it doesn't always show up on the test score. But like Michelle was saying, I've got to get them so that they can be productive members of society and function in a workplace. And we can then go from there. So, thank you.
Hello, I am Christina Peterson Genunzio. I am the high school special education teacher. Everybody calls me PG because everybody's afraid of the name Genunzio. In the high school, I actually came in when they started the integration process. I had the fantastic opportunity of student teaching here. And then I was hired in a different district after I was done student teaching. And the teacher I student taught under sent me a text message and said, get your stuff ready because I'm moving on. And I said, okay. And here I am. So I was really excited to be able to come back. And that's when the integration was really in full force when I was coming back. And I primarily co-teach with the English department. I have had a year where I also co-teach with math. It just depends on what our student needs are. Our student needs are completely dictated. Our schedule is completely dictated by our student needs. So we look at what they need and that is where we are placed. And if we need to flex and go elsewhere, then that's what we do. I am fantastically lucky with the English department. I have two awesome teachers to work with. And we work together as a PLC. So I PLC with special ed periodically, but I mostly PLC with English. So I know how to best serve my students and move them forward. And then I was here when we started doing what we call double hits. So they go into English. I co-teach. I usually only co-teach one section of each grade. Again, it's dependent on student needs. Like this year, I'm not in English 12 because there wasn't a need. Next year, there will be a need, so I will need to figure that out. But when I do double hit, it's to try and increase the reading, the vocabulary, and help them be able to understand. So I'll always reteach whatever we did in English class and make sure that they understand the basic concepts and can move forward with that. And it's always awesome to hear some of the conversations that they have with the students that they work with. Usually they're in clusters. And the biggest thing I see is the social piece. We have students that you wouldn't think would be very social with others. We have students on the spectrum that sometimes don't understand joking very well. I was watching some interactions last week that were completely fantastic. One of my students was sitting next to another student and he took his iPad and he was pretending he was taking a picture. He wasn't before class was starting. And the other student knew that he was pretending and they made a whole conversation out of it. So the fact that they were able to have that interaction and understand the comedy of it was awesome. As a high school teacher, the biggest challenge I have, I'm not only responsible for making sure that they have a better understanding and ability in reading, I also have to really make sure that they're ready to move forward post-secondary. So whether that's a job, whether that's maybe TC, maybe a four-year college, we do have some programs in the area that might be effective for one or two of my students, but to really find opportunities for students is a little tricky because a lot of my schedule is dictated by the educational part. So I've been trying to work with our counselor, Hannah Scholes, to figure out some other things that we can do for our students to help them maybe start some of that career and transition stuff before they leave here instead of after they leave here. And we usually don't have many students that would require 18 to 21, but there are programs in the area that we could co-op with to do 18 to 21. In fact, Onalaska High School has just been approved for one. They won't be taking students from another school yet, But by the time I have a student that might be ready for something like that, they just need that little extra push before they're out on their own. Those are types of opportunities I want to be able to start to explore for some of my students, usually not all, but just to be able to give them as many opportunities as possible to be successful and productive as an adult is really what I'm working towards.
I'm Jeanette Anderson, and I'm a special education teacher at the elementary. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. I have been with Bangor Elementary since 2005, and I have told Julie Meyer many times that I remember when I got my first full-size classroom. And I said, if anybody tried to take me out of here, there would be fingernails on the door, because I was in a closet when I started. I was in the old shower, with the shower still in the room in the elementary building before it was remodeled. And I remember we used to use it for storage, and I carried that stuff out with layers of green mold on it. So even the health aspect was questionable, you know, back in the day. But anyway, we made it work. And I'm really grateful that I've been able to have a regular classroom for my students since that time. So since I've been on board, I did my student teaching with Michelle Harper. So I was really lucky. I got some really good training, and then I was hired the year after that at the elementary school. And my licensure is in intellectual disabilities and learning disabilities. So my students mostly had replacement instruction for the core classes of math and for English. And, you know, so instead of getting that tier 1 instruction over the years, we have had what we call replaced instruction. And the tricky part for all of that is because I service kids or I have students on my caseload all the way from 2nd to 5th grade. And so in order to make that work as a replaced class for both math and reading, there's always an overlap. And so in the past, I have had 5th grade students in for reading or in for math at the same time as a 3rd grade class comes in. And, you know, they're not as many students, you know, it may be 2, it may be 1, but are coming into my classroom with one teacher for 2 different instructional opportunities. And it just does not work very well for direct instruction, for good direct instruction. And but we've done the best we can to make it work. And so our hope at this point in time is to move towards the model that the middle high school has done. And one of the things I've found is because I've worked with 5th graders for a long time, Michelle and I transition our students. We start planning early in the year in 5th grade to transition those students on to middle school so that they can have the most successful experience possible in that way. And if we're starting to model some of those things that they're doing up here, I think that will be overall the best thing for those students in their learning. So I will pass it to Tara.
I'm going to stay on the step, so I'm a little taller. So this year, in an attempt to make a difference in closing the achievement gap, we've rearranged schedules and have changed the way we write our IEPs in order to accommodate our students' learning so that they are in the classroom more often. We want them to be exposed to the same content, knowledge, and vocabulary that their same age peers are learning, as well as the positive social emotional impact on them to feel included. To get an idea of our current special education numbers, we serve 24 students on individual education plans or 504 plans in 14 different classrooms spanning 4K through 5th grade. And our numbers are always changing. So that's today. We also have 5 students that are in the referral evaluation process. As for our paraprofessional staffing, we have an outstanding team that we work with, and we are so blessed to have the team that we have. I can't give them enough credit for all that they do for our kids. They're amazing. A big part of our students' success. We have 2 full-time paras that work with specific students and their needs. We have 2 full-time paras that work with students across all grade levels. And we have 1 temporary full-time para due to an increase of special education students. So.
I'm Anna Devanovich. I'm the elementary special ed teacher with an EBD license. I want to start by thanking our administration and you guys as the board for increasing Tara's hours this year. This is the first time that we have been able to meet as a PLC team to plan for our students, to rearrange schedules daily almost, and just better meet those students' needs. So that's really exciting to see, and we all definitely appreciate that. Some challenges that we are still working through are finding time to meet with our paras, to better equip them with how to do instructional needs in the classroom, different strategies to use with students. We also want to work towards finding time to collaborate with the homeroom teachers, how we can modify assignments or personalize things for those students so they can be more independent in the classrooms. We would like to just overall improve our communication with all staff so it's more meaningful, so they have a better understanding of our side of things, so they can kind of see things in a different light in their own spaces. And it's challenging with the paras that we have. They do a phenomenal job working with the students, but sometimes it does get tricky with scheduling. They have duties outside of classroom needs that they have to meet. So we're just being ever flexible, getting in all those recess duties and lunches and working those into their schedules. But with all of those concerns, we have been working with Mike, and we are planning to create a team this spring to discuss scheduling needs, how we can be a more cohesive unit as an elementary school to better meet the needs of our students and all students in general. So that's kind of what we're a little bit into elementary life.
So I guess we'll open it up. Do you guys, if you guys have questions, overall questions or any specific questions for either team, go ahead.
I think it was pretty well covered. Very impressed with the discussion.
I can definitely tell from listening to you all that you're very passionate about what you do, and that you're always putting the kids first. And it's great to see that that collaboration continues, not just from one building to the other, but across the buildings, and that you guys are trying to bring that piece together. So, more than anything, I guess, thank you. Thank you for that extra effort and that passion for our kids.
I have to agree. It's great to see the passion that you guys have for our students, and it is amazing to see the progress and change through the years. And it is just amazing to see what you've done and to see how far Bangor has come. And I'm hoping you do have the administration behind you, which I believe you do, and you definitely have the board behind what you guys have done, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
I would just kind of add, sorry, that I've been in education for quite a few years, and I've met lots of special ed teachers. This team is absolutely outstanding. Their message of all means all is pervasive through all of the conversations that they have, and that resonates loudly with me. And that's just impressive. But as outstanding as they are, I think the most impressive part is that they all know that we can continue to do better, and they want that. And that, as we've had conversations in both buildings, and especially at the elementary, as we look at kind of revamping the model, the excitement when they start talking about how they could do this a little bit better and just a little bit better and a little bit better every day is outstanding. So thank you to all of you for the work that you do with sometimes what can be some of our more challenging students. And I have a statement that I've said often. Sometimes our most challenging students ask for love in the most unloving ways. And these guys match that with their love and response and just passion for what they do on a daily basis. So thank you guys for all of the work that you do with our students. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Do you want to? Okay, so everything's good here? Where do we continue?
Yeah, I think,
to go?
I think I'm
Okay.
good. And again, thanks for the board's support on when we've
Thank
asked
you.
for things. So.
Thank you for being here tonight and sharing your expertise and your advocacy for our students. Thank you. Okay, next, board president's report. We received a correspondence from a grandparent about thanking us for the live streaming that we've done with our events, and very appreciative. And I've also received numerous thank yous at the store, at the bank, wherever I may be, housewarming, wherever I am, people thank me for the meetings as well, and also all of our events that we've been able to live stream. I do not have the thank you in hand, but I wanted to share that. So next, CISA 4, as some of you may have heard, the executive director by the name of Cale Arneson has been with us for 2 years. And as you guys know, I'm on the board of control at CISA. He has retired. Just this year, he gave us his notice. So we are in the process of hiring a new executive director for our CISA 4. And just for you to know, we're going through applications on Tuesday, March 22nd. We're going to do our first round of interviews March 29th and March 30th. And then we look to doing final interviews on April 13th. So I will keep you posted about that. I do not know how many applications we have. I went into the website twice this week and it won't let me in. So I'm checking with my person for about that. Any questions? Thank you. All right, committee reports. PRC. You have a meeting, it looks like, coming up.
Looks like we're going to meet again, and I believe this is the last one to catch us up and will be current. So we're going to be meeting next week.
Thank you. And district financials.
I think we had a few questions come our way, just kind of random ones. I think I was able to answer all of those to the people who had asked. I don't know if there's any other questions or discussion. Jack, I know I emailed you late today. Did you get those? Okay. Sure.
You gotta put on your mic, Jack.
Yeah, let me just find it. So it was 2 classes? What's a few? You said a few classes for yoga. Was that 2 classes?
I did not get that number. She has a couple of, at least 2 sections, but I don't know how many times that they came. So there's yoga classes that the Lifetime Fitness class did. Oftentimes Lifetime Fitness does classes like they've done spin classes in the past. They have done bowling in the past, that type of stuff. Oftentimes we charge the kids a little bit to do that. In this case, there was some money in her budget and Rick approved that for her to pay for the new yoga studio person to come in and do a couple sessions just to kind of teach that Lifetime.
So this was for our students, our physical education class?
It was in Phi Ed class, out of the regular budget. Yep.
I think it was $450, wasn't it? Does that sound right?
No, I think it was 488. I think the 450 was the 450 was about the chair massages that we did for staff.
So I would
Yep.
like to know how many classes it was for almost $500.
I can get you that. I don't have that number in front of me.
Because we're having our kids, as you said in your response, pay for bowling. To me, you can do yoga in another way, but bowling, they have to pay for. I mean, we're charging our kids for that. So I was questioning that. And then the mileage report, I'd like to know specifically what that mileage is for. And you responded that that the vans are in use. I'd like to know, are the vans in use? Because those were 2 pretty hefty. When are they, when were they
Vans
Why
are in
couldn't they
use.
take the vans? I know.
Vans are in use every day and rolling, and we are often pulling them throughout the day for, running kids home when we ran a lot of kids home with COVID, that type of thing. So we keep the vans here if they're an overnight trip, which there was 2 trips that turned in for mileage. So those were conferences that administrators attended. They would be reimbursed for those miles.
How many vans do we have?
We have 3.
And they're all used every day.
Most days, yes.
And yes, the P card is a purchasing card or procurement card. That's what the credit card. So I would like to see details of those. I think that's it. Yeah, that was it.
Sounds good. If there's any other questions, otherwise we can look for a motion to approve the financials.
I'll make a motion to approve the financials.
I'll second.
Motion made by Shelley, second by Lori to approve the financial report or financial documents. All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next, district report.
Yeah, these are hopefully 2 quick ones. COVID-19 numbers have continued to be well in control over what we had seen, especially in January. Since our last meeting, we've seen a total of 10 cases in the last month, and that equals out. We've talked about kind of active cases per day as 1.5 per day throughout that month span. So really reduced. And I would say that's with a much diminished mask wearing over the last couple of weeks, especially. People are feeling more and more comfortable in school with that. So still happening, still a couple cases out there. And we're following up with those. We did have one group together that we communicated to the county and communicated out as they directed us to. So no changes in plan at this time, but kind of what we had expected. The second item there is just the employee navigator. That is an efficiency piece and making sure we cover everything for all of the employee benefits and those types of things that our staff signs up for. There's an open enrollment period every year that is a ton of paperwork and trying to get all of that correct. This is just going to streamline that process immensely. So we're working with the insurance center on putting that in place. There's a flyer there with just more information. So I think this is going to be a real positive for us moving forward. So just wanted to kind of share that. Just another one of those ways that we're working to be more efficient.
And this is through them. This is not a software that we are controlling or.
Correct. It's all set up through the insurance center. So thank you.
And right now we are using nothing, correct? It's just
correct. Just lots of paper and shuffling things around. Yep.
Any other questions for David? Okay, moving on to district action items, waived registration fees.
All right. So with the waiving registration fees, this is something that we've talked about multiple times throughout the year. We're to the point where we're starting to plan for that enrollment period at the beginning of the year. We currently charge our middle school, high school students $10 for an enrollment fee at the beginning of the year, $5 for our elementary, and $2 for our 4K students. We end up chasing a number of those amounts, and when you look at maybe $5,000 to $6,000, and it's not even that when you look at our population throughout the course of the year. I think this would just be one less hurdle for our families to overcome as they register. And it's not a lot of money, but it's just it's just another way that we're going to welcome all kids and eliminate any barriers to get kids into school and get them started and not have to search, hunt down those dollar amounts. So it's a pretty small amount for the amount of work that we put into it, and we just believe that it would be a good move for our district to waive those fees.
I just have a quick question, David. So obviously we had those fees for quote unquote a reason. What did they like go towards, or I'm just,
I think that's the $1 million question.
okay, so we really don't have anything that, what was the $5 for? Like, what was it used for? What was the $10 for? Or $2?
You got 3 administrators or 4 administrators, 5 administrators sitting around a table in admin meeting going, what do we use them for? What is the benefit of this? And none of us have a real justification for why we would continue it. And
Okay.
to discontinue it, we just need board action to do that. So I don't, again, it's not a huge amount, and it's that answer to answer that question. I think that's the right question to ask. We don't know.
Okay. All right.
There used to be towel fees and those types of things. You know, there used to be a lot of different things. We don't feel like we need this anymore.
This has been in effect for a long time.
And the fees
Well,
probably haven't
I've been
changed.
going, my kids are 18 and I've paid since they were in kindergarten, so.
No, we're not reimbursing.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Come on,
I've
times
always-
2?
Our kids paid it all the way through,
Oh, yeah,
and they're in their 30s, so.
yeah, mine too.
Is this a common practice among other districts, or
I would say yes.
to discontinue, or they're still charging a fee?
To discontinue. Yeah, to discontinue.
So I take it the money just always went like in the general fund and just used whatever. Yeah, okay.
I will make a motion to approve the waiver of the enrollment fees.
I'll second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Lisa to waive the registration fees. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, Mike's gonna chime in as we go here. I've got just a real brief PowerPoint to give you some of the information thank you. For 4K. So we have talked with you a little bit about this a couple times, and I said that we would bring back a proposal. And here we are back with a proposal to move forward. So currently we have one teacher for 4K, one full-time teacher teaches 2 sections of 4K. So teaches a Monday, Wednesday, and a Tuesday, Thursday class. And then Fridays are their prep day and their family connections type day. So that is what's in place. This year we did add the 3rd section. I believe end of last year that section was added. So another para in that classroom and 3 total sections. That one just runs Monday and Wednesday. Am I correct? Yeah. So that's what's currently in place. So we have talked about what would it look like to go to 4 days a week. And have Fridays still being that prep day. That is common with kind of full-time 4K programs because they don't get prep time during the day because they don't have the specials built in to get their elective, all of the rotation built in to get to. So that's pretty common to leave that one day still as the family connection day and the prep time. So we did do a survey of a number of younger families looking at a couple of different questions, but one of the questions, there was 23 respondents that said they would have a child coming into 4K next year. 20 of those 23 preferred 4 days a week to the current 2-day-a-week model, which we thought spoke pretty loudly. Those that don't want the full 4-day option, we do believe that we could accommodate that with some students being in a Monday, Wednesday, and then a different student being in a Tuesday, Thursday type class. It keeps our class sizes a little bit more balanced, and we believe that we could make that work if that was the family's wishes. So I think that we've got a strong message from our community and other communities that are doing this. This is a desirable option for those communities. So some of the considerations that we've talked a lot about is it can be a long week for the kids, 4 days, all day, can kind of take its toll. On the other side, we're establishing more routines. So we are getting students earlier into that routine of school, and hopefully establishing some good habits for school. We can have more academic focus over the course of the year, so we can get to more than we're getting to now. And at the same time, we have more opportunity for the play-based social opportunities that are so vital for our youngest learners. We currently, I think an important consideration here, we currently have many families who open enroll out due to daycare in 4K when it's a every other day program. This may give us the opportunity to retain some of those families and children in the district. And hopefully if they start here, they stay here. What we've seen and what is a common trend is once you've started in a district, even if you're open enrolled to that district for daycare purposes, you stay there. And for all the right reasons. I mean, when kid starts in our school, I can't see them leaving it because they've experienced that. And I know that some of our, surrounding schools have great experiences for their young children as well. When we look at the financial considerations of this, the 4K students in our FTE count for state funding are only a 0.6 FTE. That is not changed at this point in time, and they keep talking about this being changed. I do believe it will change in the next few years with all of the efforts being put into early learning. And I think we saw, especially with the daycare considerations that became so prevalent through the pandemic, I think there's just more of a need for those all day, everyday services. So that is a consideration. We feel like we can do that. So we talk. This is a little bit about the open enrolling again. They don't always return if they've open enrolled out. State and federal funding is very likely to be shifting to this in the near future, and this would put us ahead of that game. So we would be in the position where we don't have to find a new space, hire new staff. We are set for it and ready, and the FTEs are just reimbursed at a higher rate. So I think that's an important consideration for us moving forward. As far as the staffing plan moving forward with full sections, we would have the hopes to maintain that target ratio of like 10-1. And what that would mean is we would have one teacher and one para with up to 20 kids in the room. So initially 2 teachers, 2 paras, and we would watch that. If we get to a point where we start to get a little bit more, we could add a para to help support. If we get to the point where we're dropping down, we could lose that para. If we get to the point where we had enough for another section, we could have one teacher with 8 or 9 kids or 10 kids and without a para. And we could make that work as well. So it gives us some flexibility, kind of shooting at that target ratio of 10 students to 1 for that 4K program. So we currently, and Mike texted me today, we changed that from 34 to 36 today. We currently have 36 enrollment packets for next year. So, we'd be looking at an 18 and an 18 type situation to start the school year with those 2 teachers and 2 paras is what we're looking at. Based on some of the current projections and some of the numbers we have, that could grow as high as 44, and we'll continue to monitor that and look at that and see if we need some additional support and staffing at that point in time based on that kind of that goal of getting close to that 10-1. So some of that might be, affected by a few families that don't want to go 4 days a week, and we can, couple a couple together to make it so that those ratios stay within check. So there's some definite options there for how we would staff this, and some flexibility for us to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all those students and their families. I think that this was a slide that I think is really important. I've been around early learning for a long time. And I will tell you that not all 4K teachers think that all day 4K is a great idea. It just seems like a lot. all day, every day 4K teachers. We have met a couple of times with the 4K team and talked about this. They are excited about the possibility. They talked about the difficulty of, we met month into the school year, month and a half into the school year, and kind of started this conversation. And well, I've only seen my kids, 6 times or something, because we had, a day here, whatever, just because they don't have that consistency of at least that 4 days a week. So they really believe that consistency, they're going to be able to establish more routines earlier and really keep the kids learning on a consistent basis. So that's important, that the staff absolutely feels that this is a good move for us.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, please.
Part of the consent, I just shared a piece of research with my staff recently about just the importance or the long-term benefits of having kids coming out of 4K with letters and numbers kind of identified, right? And the impact that has over the course of their educational experience. And something that came out of that was just the way we do 4K in Bangor is just 2 days a week, 2 days, full days, right? The inconsistencies of those other days when they're not in school and the long gaps, if you really think about throwing a weekend in there, you got a kid that, if they, we see this often where a kid might be here on a Tuesday, they might have something where they're ill or their family's doing something and they miss a Thursday. Well, they don't see them again. And if we had even let's just say other schools do these things different ways. They do half day mornings, let's say, and then they do a different group in the afternoon. The transportation side of that is a nightmare and something that personally I don't want to try to figure out. So in order to get our students in a better place, coming into kindergarten, socially and academically, and I'll stress the social side of it, because we want to do exactly, if you heard what the special ed staff was supporting and encouraging, was the need for social interactions with their grade level peers. And if we can do more of that, I think we can get some of these other pieces, some of these other hurdles out of the way so that the academic clears up. And I want to get this clear that going from 2 days to 4 days it's not a mirror image of what we were doing currently. Those days would change. Our setups on those days would change. We wouldn't, the teachers feel a presence or a pressure to get to a certain point by the end of the year, right? You have 2 days a week to do that. They can back off some of that stuff and increase a lot. We'll get more, let's say, spend more quality time on learning something than speeding it through because you just don't have the time to do it. And I think that the social side of it, as much as anything, is really a key to this opportunity. And they do get rest time, they do get all of those types of things. But I do think the benefit to the K-12 experience, this is I think a strong support for it.
Thank you, Mike. So our administrative recommendation is to move forward with the creation of all day 4K for the for the 4 days per week. Sorry, there should be another 4 in there. Well, the cost of this does have implications. There is some cost implications. We can use ESSER, and I think this would be an absolute appropriate way for part of that 20% of ESSER 3 to be used for at least those 3 years. And I believe that by the time that 3 years is up, the funding will be there, and we will be positioned well to continue that forward. As it stands and as we are planning right now financially, I don't think we'll have to use those ESSER $3 for next year, but it just gives us that lever to pull if we need that flexibility. So I think just moving forward, this is going to position the district well for continued growth and for continued high achievement and just really meeting the needs of our students and our families. So would look for support or to get this ball rolling and officially start getting the communications ready.
Did you list the cost somewhere? I didn't see it.
So Right now, we're shifting staff. So the cost is that 0.4. We have figured that a lot of different ways, and probably somewhere around $40,000 to $60,000, depending on how we figure it. But right now, we're not necessarily we're able to shift to make it happen.
So $40,000 to $60,000 in teacher cost, in the TA teachers assistant
$40,000 to
cost?
$60,000 would be the 0.4 that we're not reimbursed for. So the teacher cost is already there for the most part. It is, Angie and I looked at this 20 different ways to try to figure out exactly what that cost is. But that's about the range that we're in. That's the amount that we wouldn't get reimbursed. That if this starts to be reimbursed, and when it starts to be reimbursed at a full FTE, that would be the more that would be coming our way. Because it's not based on the teacher costs, the FTE reimbursement. It's that percentage of an FTE, which is it enrollment in that program? That's the part that it's really, we've figured it that way. We figured it the cost of staffing, but it's an investment. I talked about in here, if we look at it from the standpoint of if we keep one child from open enrolling out, if we provide this opportunity and that child does not open enroll out and stays with our district through graduation, that's over $100,000 in funds that stay with us versus go out to open enrollment.
This
So
40 to 60 is per year or those 3 years?
40 to 60 per year, yeah, okay, would be the kind of the difference in FTE reimbursement.
So you're looking, let's just say 40 kids, that's 2 4K classrooms that normally you would have had one teacher doing a Monday, Wednesday, one teacher doing the same teacher doing a Tuesday, Thursday. Now you're going to have 2 teachers doing Monday, Thursday, with Friday being their parent outreach. So it's the cost of another full-time teacher and another full-time TA. So wouldn't it be more than $60,000, a full-time teacher with benefits and a full-time TA with benefits? I'm going to tell you, but first of all, I support it. I think it's an excellent use of ESSER dollars. I think it's great. I believe in early intervention, but I think it's realistic to say, what does it cost?
Like I said, that's the range that we've found. $40,000 to $60,000 is what Angie and I have gone back and forth on multiple times.
So
That's-
what? Oh, sorry.
No. Well, that just seems low to me because you're adding a full-time teacher and a full-time
It
TA.
seems low to us, which is why we've kept going back to it. But that's what we continue to figure. We're trying to figure not the cost of the program, but the difference in cost. The difference in cost because of the reimbursement.
Right, so you're getting a 0.6 reimbursement instead of a 1.0. So still, the cost of a full-time teacher and a full-time TA, you're getting reimbursed 0.6 of them. It's going to be, I think, more than that. I don't know. I guess that's why I'm asking the question.
From that, looking at it from that perspective, yes, it would be the cost of a teacher and the cost of a para.
So I just have a quick question, make sure I'm understanding this right, but you're basing this off of, we think, or most likely, this will be fully funded within 3 years?
We do believe that.
What if it's not?
Then
Then do we pull the program back?
We would weigh the program at that point in time.
That's my fears. I think that would be detrimental if we start it and then have to reverse it because we can't afford it.
Right, I wouldn't want to be pulling it back, but
So then you look at the cost and you say, let's just say it costs $100,000. How much do we put in our fund balance every year? Is $100,000 worth early investment?
That's what I was going to say too. We would have 3 years of history and realizing, are we keeping the kids? We'd have a history there and we'd have to do a cost benefit study.
I would agree.
Yeah.
But I also think
it's really, really hard in this case, and in so many cases when you're talking budget, because you're guessing. and trying to predict. I mean, we don't know what the next biennium budget's going to be. We're trying to make the best decision that we can. When we look at the benefit for our staff and what we believe will be the benefit for the district financially in the long run, we feel like this is the right direction. There are school districts that have even started like 3K programs, and they charge. And there's a charge to families. If we're in that dire strait and we're looking at cutting, well, you can have 2 days a week for free, and we'll continue the 4-day week, but it'll cost this much to do it. Do I want to get there? Absolutely not. I want to continue the program, but that would be an option moving forward.
I think to go back to Jack's point though, as well, is for the amount of money that we're talking about paying out, what we put in our fund balance and what it's going to do to help our kids at a younger age. I guess social skills, yes, but if they're able to be more successful early on with reading, with math, to me, that's a good investment because you're starting them out in a better position.
And to catch the kids that need that early intervention.
Well, I'm just thinking like, even like for Josh's group to be able to identify earlier those that might have needs or that kind of thing. So
provide those supports.
Yeah,
earlier.
it scares me a little bit too that we don't know for sure, but if they will reimburse for it, but there's a lot of things, I guess, with education that we don't know for sure about a lot of things. And we have to use our best judgment. And I think based on the kids, I do think it would be nice to get some numbers though, as far as what specifically it would cost for the extra para and then the extra for the teachers going. I think a cost analysis of just what we're talking specifically, so we could see those numbers would be beneficial for us to see.
And I can show you what what the second teacher and para would the impact would be. That would not be part of what I'm saying is that would not be an addition to our budget because we are shifting those positions within our current budget. So I'm not asking for that additional on top. It's just reallocating within what we have.
So you have that para and you have that teacher doing something else on a full-time basis.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
And we actually, I think part of what we're looking at is we will reduce para staffing based right now in special ed to kind of make up that para difference.
You remember last year when we hired, I put out for a part-time 4K and I had the ESSER funds you approved for the full-time math intervention.
Yep.
Could not find a part-time 4K, so we adjusted back to the, I asked permission to offer the part-time math intervention to make that 4K position. That's the position. So Melanie Brooks would go from current 4K part-time, current math intervention part-time to
4K full-time.
Yep. And we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then her para is currently 2 days a week because of the 4K side of it. She would be 4 days a week.
But we're still adding. So
We are
adding.
Yeah.
So they're currently employed, but we're not going to need them in whatever position they're in or whatever. So it's still an add. It's still a cost. I think it's realistic to ask for a cost.
And we have space for this?
Yep. It's the same spaces we're using right now.
Not adding an extra classroom?
No, the challenge on that would be if we get up over that 45 number, then you've been in the class, you've been into my building, it's tight. But currently right now, the numbers are 36 as of today. They're projected to be 44 that we're kind of aware of the existence, not, those all phone calls and messages have been put out to all of those parents, but the last two that we've gotten were not on our list. That was today.
So when we did our open enrollment numbers, where we approve the potential numbers type of thing.
Class sizes.
What class size did we put there? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
months.
Yeah, I do.
Was like a month or
Those were
two
the
ago,
special,
wasn't it?
those were the special ed numbers.
That was the report that we
Was
need
the
to
special ed
send.
number.
That report that we have to send where it says how many people we're gonna, or how many kids we're gonna have in each classroom and section or whatever.
So it's,
But
they
did
would.
we put for 4K?
Yeah.
I mean,
We-
I guess
we
what I'm
would-
asking is, can we say no to somebody once we get to 44, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Well, the number, I guess at the end of the day, you're looking at people that live in our community versus people that are open enrolling into our community. And I know that we've had, I haven't focused on that number in terms of people open enrolling to us in 4K, but the people that were open enrolling out, I think the number was 4 for next year, and that was based on childcare. But I believe the number right now is 2 are coming back because of the opportunity for 4 days, and 2 have not been replied to or something like that.
So if
It's ever changing every day on this. Carrie Kenyon has been working tirelessly on, she's probably sick of David and I both asking her questions 6 times a day to see what this is. But at the end of the day, we want to get it right and we want to be accurate, because I think we all understand what 20 kids in a 24K kids in a classroom look like. But
And I get that, but we don't have space to add a third section if you get over 45.
we would get creative, which
But that would also be an additional expense then, because now we're talking another teacher and another para probably, or potentially another teacher, let's just say maybe.
I think the big question is the 0.4 side of it is, really at the end of the day, the teachers cost what they teach, what they cost you, right? So certainly that is part of it. But if you're also looking at a number of students that are going to come to Bangor that normally wouldn't, you're getting 0.6 per person that wasn't coming anyway. And eventually next year, 1.0 that wasn't coming or possibly wasn't coming. So those are difficult answers to put on numbers, but they're certainly out there in terms of options.
We did put 20 as max class size for open enrollment. So at that point in time, we only had 28 that we were counting for next year. So being at 36, there would only be 4 openings left right now today.
And this 0.6 FTE, that's been that way since the beginning of 4K, which has been quite some time.
Do most districts do 4-day 4K, or are we gonna be like the test pilot? And
No.
I have no idea.
There's many that
It's
do.
becoming much, much more common.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't gonna be the only one in the area that everybody's
There are many schools in our
enrolling to.
district.
Yeah, let's do that.
which isn't a bad thing, but
Yeah.
when you don't have space, it's not a great thing, so.
But I think, Lisa, that's the exact question you're saying is because that's come across my mind exactly, and you're like, well, we're going to be busting at the seams every year. We're going to be running at maximums every year. And you're like, okay, what does that look like? But again, a destination district, we have development going on in our district. It's a great place to be. And every kid that we're able to run, let's just say maximums, if you're going to run that because you're drawing it in because you're doing something different, you're probably going to hold on to those kids, and you're talking, significant financial benefit moving forward. And you have the ability to say, we're capping this at this if it's because of open enrollment in.
But Jeanette's not going back to a closet, so we have to have space.
Yeah.
Shower.
Shower or whatever she was in.
She did make that very clear, yeah.
Exactly.
I would like to know, does Caston do it? Does Sparta do it? Does West Salem do it? Does Mount Men do it? Our immediate neighbors, do they do it?
Salem's
Yes.
half days, full weeks. And I know that a lot of our families go from here 2 days a week to St. Paul's 2 days a week. And that's kind of the idea as well.
Caston is there or heading there in the conversations that we've had.
Caston does 4K already, 4 days a week. They have the option that you can go 2 days, but they offer Monday through Thursday. They have for quite a while.
Anybody know about Mount Men or Sparta?
I don't.
I know that many parents in our district have asked me just because of the daycare, and they really would like to have their students here 4 days instead of going between schools.
how many students do we have right now in 4K classes?
10 to 11 right now.
Okay. So
We're up to 30, is it 36 coming in as first graders next year, or kindergartners next year, sorry. 36 right now.
and so we're at, if we have 36 coming in, we're gonna have at least 18 in each class, one teacher, one para. That age. Those rooms are,
Big.
yes. I think it's a great idea, but I am concerned about that number because I think 18 is a lot. Even 20, I think is a lot. But then after that, I don't know what we do or where we go from
That
there.
number 20 is pretty common. In fact, I know that both of our teachers were up over 20 in previous areas. That's so it's not desired. You know, I think, you know, just in my mind, 16, 18 in a class is kind of hope, I guess. But at the end of the day, you still got to pay for what you hire, and you know, that's all part of it.
Any other questions?
You talked about this coming out of ESSER funds. This would complete out the ESSER funds then?
No, right now, we are not planning on this coming out of ESSER funds. Right now, it could, depending on if there's other unforeseen costs, which we don't see, because we're able to shift what we currently have, which is all covered within our budget.
But if we needed to, ESSER funds could cover it.
Correct, for the 3 years.
And we haven't touched ESSER 3 yet, or we have?
We have not.
We have not touched
And
ESSER 3.
and what's
And what
the
about
amount?
ESSER 2?
Yeah.
980, or yeah,
980.
something like that. I have that. We'll talk in closed session on kind of some of those budget numbers and staffing strategies and negotiations and stuff.
Sorry. I'm jumping
No, it's okay. We'll get more into that. Could have been a month ahead on that.
But just to reiterate, our current 4K teachers are all on board with us. That's what they would prefer as well.
I would just say, I think it's really important, Jack, you're asking a great question. I'm sorry, I don't have that number right in front of me because that's not how I was trying to figure it. But I mean, we can look at that specific dollar amount for that specific teacher and that specific para. I think this discussion is important. I think this is a big decision, but I think it's the right decision. We've met as a board. We've talked about strategic prioritizing. We've talked about thinking of the future and that vision for the future. This is in line with that is putting us in the right position moving forward.
So are we prepared to make a decision before we see those numbers, or how is everybody feeling?
I'm supportive of the investment of the kids, and my biggest concern is if we go over 40 and what we would do with that third, because we see bubbles all the time. So that's my biggest concern, because then that does add a significant amount more.
What kind of problem does it cause if we vote on it next? I mean, is it too late if we wait till next meeting, or is it, you know, to get that extra information, or how far does that put us behind?
The extra information you're looking for is you just want to see those ESSER dollars and kind of see where we're talking full staffing plan. I mean, we can bring it as part of the full staffing plan. That's my hope in April.
I guess I'd like to see those numbers as far as what the true overall cost is by adding it as full-time every day or 4 days, all day, what the total cost of that would be, and then subtract out of that what we're already paying. I would like to see the numbers if it's not crucial that we vote on it tonight, because I'd really like to see those numbers.
Mike, timeline?
I'm not putting out openings for staff because they're already here, so it doesn't.
It's just starting to communicate to families that that's what they can plan.
That would be
for.
the
I mean,
big piece of it, right?
We can do that in April.
I mean, I think we're supportive of the concept. I just think that, again, we're also talking about dollars, and I think we need to be cognizant of how much that is and how much of a difference it is, even though we know we have it covered one way or the other. I think we need to see what those numbers are.
Thank you. Yeah, we can bring it back. So do we need a motion to table it till and bring it back as part of the staffing plan, or is that, or just, you just want to?
Yeah, we need a motion to table.
I will make a motion to table the approval of this fully until the April meeting when we have all the cost numbers.
I'll second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Lisa to table the full-time 4K proposal decision until we have more information. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, the 0.5 FTE Family Connections Coordinator position is something we have had some real creative conversations around. This year, we have had a social worker, or we had a social worker through CISA 4 that we contracted with CISA 4 to hire. So they were hired by CISA 4 and served us a few days a week type thing. Moving forward, that position, she has moved on, and that position may or may not be replaced. Even if it's replaced, it's not our employee. And there's difficulties to just connecting with them at times. So we've had multiple conversations, and there are other districts that are using a similar model to this, where we would create the Family Connections Coordinator. We believe that we can do this for less than what we were paying to CISA, create a part-time position. So there would be no benefit eligibility. So we can stay on the teacher scale and easily stay below what we were paying CISA for the services. And we would accept multiple different licenses that could apply for this position. And part of our mindset is there, social workers, school counselors, school psychologists, those types of positions all have the skill sets, or many have the skill sets to do the type of work that we're looking for with this position. And they're all difficult to come by right now. So it's finding the right person with the right skill set for our district and community. So we would open that up wider. We would cast a net and see what we could get for applications. This position would serve a number of roles in the district. A couple of the big things our social worker has worked with is attendance issues, going out, doing family visits, working with families, trying to figure out solutions for them to be, in school and on a regular basis, working through those things. Oftentimes they're helping connect students and helping families fill out paperwork to get to our mental health services, and just connecting with families that way. We also have responsibilities as a district to have a homeless coordinator, and this position would be a great fit into that, so that those responsibilities could be covered as well. And just helping create some positive experiences for our younger families and for all of our families. Just help connect to understand our community and make sure that we are creating an inclusive environment where our families feel welcome to come in and be a part of our school functions. So this person can help communicate to families, go pick pick up, transport, kids when they need it, help go get shoes for a kid that really wants to play a sport and can't necessarily get there to get their own shoes or that type of thing. We just see this being an extension of what we were able to do with our social worker, having it kept in-house this way. So again, it's not really a change in funding. We actually feel like we could have a slight savings over what we were doing. I will own completely that we may post this and get no applicants, and we may go back to CISA at that point in time. But we felt, I think as an admin team, that this was a good attempt to get those services covered for our districts, support our families, and make sure that we're continuing the types of services that were provided by our social worker.
David, I see that this for K through 12 was our social worker for K through 12?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That was my question. Part-time, you really think you're gonna?
So what is the cost right now through CISA that we were paying for the social worker?
We were paying $40,000.
Part-time. We've shared her with Lafarge, correct?
Yeah, the turnover is really one of the bigger challenges. I mean, Erin, who worked with us this year, fantastic. She worked really hard.
Absolutely.
She, impacted many of our families. And that's the second social worker I've worked with in my 2.5 years here. CISA can't keep them in place. I think that's probably one of the driving forces that Dave's right, we might not get anybody, but I think if we can get the work that she did this year in a short time that she was here, kind of opened our eyes to what the need was for this position. And it opened the doors to a lot of families. She worked her tail off for the whatever hours she was here, which wasn't much. But I think it really opened our eyes to what we could make homegrown better than what maybe we, because if you're always dealing with a CISA employee, you're always dealing with a CISA employee. When you're dealing with our own employee, I think gives us leeway to make the job even better for Bangor families. So,
And Erin's, she's already gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. She took a job in Holman. Good opportunity for her. She tried to get it on to the end of the year so she could stay with us, and Holman said no. So what is she going to do? It's nothing she did. She did a great job for us.
I would hope with an internal person, we would be able to provide some flexibility so they could be here early at times when they need to be, and then be here for evening events at times when they need to be. So just having that flexibility would be ideal for us as a school district. And, as long as they've got their hours covered, just whatever they can do to help support our students and families.
So at this point, you're asking us just to create the position or approve the position.
Correct. We would come back with our hire and our recommendation for a hire.
If there's no further questions, I would make a motion to approve the position of Family Connections Coordinator on a part-time basis. Half-time basis, I guess.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve the creation of a 0.5 Bangor Family Connections Coordinator beginning with 2022-2023 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, and then the last one, we need to move our April meeting. We had talked last time about moving it to April 19th, and I know there was a brief discussion on that. We then, when we met today, we realized that April 19th does not work for multiple people. So we're hoping we could move it to that following Wednesday, if possible, would be the first choice. Am I right on that?
Yep. The 27th would be Wednesday. A second choice would be Tuesday, April 26th. We know that our Jean will be traveling.
But we'll figure it out.
Maybe. Can you do a Zoom? Kidding.
I can't do either of them.
Pardon, Jack?
I can't do either of those dates.
Well, so let's see here, the week before, the 19th and 20th did not work, and the week before that is Holy Week. I don't know if that matters for people, but what was the 13th? Wasn't that something for you though?
Did you, Julie, I believe you said you had interviews.
Oh, yeah, I have CISA. I have CISA final interviews.
Not me. Sorry. I have a
No?
board meeting.
Is Thursday the 21st or 28th?
No, there you go.
28th,
Or the 14th, that's the week before. I don't know if we want to go before or.
14th or 28th.
She's the 21st or 28th. Is that what you said?
Yeah, or 24th or 14th or 28th, the week before, or the week after, because the
Yeah,
reason you want it moved is that whole
I'm-
week, right? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
yes.
Yes. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are out. the
Oh, I
20th and
see.
1st.
I gotcha.
So
Okay.
the 14th
So you're
or the
talking about
28th?
the 14th or the 28th of
April.
April.
I can't do the 28th.
It's 14th.
There's no school that day.
Yeah, it's Monty Thursday.
Oh,
What about the 26th?
We'll do the 20th. I will, if we can,
What?
if the 20th is the only date that works, I'll make it work. So we won't move that. It just, there's not another option there. So we'll stick with the 20th. And I'll change plans.
So we're gonna keep it Wednesday, April 20th?
Yep. So I don't think we need to make a motion.
We
'cause
don't
it's
need
already
to
set.
do anything.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, David.
Yep.
So personnel, Mr. Braca?
I apologize for that. I
Oh,
clicked on the
happens.
wrong thing and got out of there, so let me get back in here. So the personnel, yeah,
Need
they,
anything up here or no? No.
It's not
these
like that.
first two are two absolutely outstanding educators that have been with the Bangor School District for 34 and 31 years, just representing incredible work over the time that they have served our district, but have both come and met with me and given me their retirement letters. So the first one, we would look to approve the motion for the retirement of Dawn Paisley at the end of this school year after 34 years. So thank you to Dawn for amazing service to our district over that time.
I'll make a motion to approve the retirement of Dawn Paisley from her position as a third grade teacher at Bangor Elementary at the end of the school year.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni to approve the retirement of Dawn Paisley from her position as third grade teacher at Bangor Elementary School effective at the end of the school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mrs. Paisley.
The second one, same, just 31 years in our school district, serving kids and doing outstanding work with those children over that time. Kristen Gagne Larkin, again, met with me this week to let me know that she would be retiring effective at the end of the school year.
I'll move to approve the retirement of Kristen Gagne Larkin at the end of the 21-22 school year. Reluctantly.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve the retirement of Kristen Gagne Larkin from her position as fourth grade teacher at Bangor Elementary School effective at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mrs. Gagne Larkin.
All right. The next one is something we should have had a little action on earlier, but Sean Stack has now worked with us since October 1st, has officially now submitted his letter of resignation from the district as bus driver. So we thank him for his years of service to the district. Over the past couple of years, he's helped with driving, and wish him the best in his future endeavors. So looking for the approval of the resignation of Sean Stack.
I'll make a motion to approve the resignation of Sean Stack.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve the it was Joni, correct? To approve the resignation of Sean Stack effective on his last day of work, October 1st, 2021. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Sean.
And our middle school art teacher, Dustin Schilling, has expressed and had some great conversations with both myself and Rick, a real desire to get back to his home area. He grew up in Platteville and has had some family pass this year, and just really drawn back to his family in that area. So we wish him all the best as he takes on his new position as art teacher in the Iowa Grant School District. They are very lucky to be getting an outstanding teacher, and we thank him for his time in the district.
I'll make a motion to approve Dustin's resignation.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve the resignation of Dustin Schilling effective at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Schilling.
This next one is kind of a cleanup, and I think just in the transition between Dave and I, and the addition of the 7th route and all of those types of things. Dale Johnson has been driving a regular route for us for almost 2 full years, but did not have a contract that he was working under. So we really, I want to make sure that he knows that we appreciate the work that he has been doing and will continue to do for us into the future, and make sure that we get this contract approved for the remainder of this year, and then we'll bring him back next year for next year, hopefully, to continue at that point in time. But this is just putting it in place for the remainder of this school year.
Move to approve the letter of appointment for Dale Johnson for the remainder of this school year as bus driver.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina to approve the letter of appointment for Dale Johnson for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I will abstain.
Thank you, Lisa. Motion carried.
And then the last one, very similarly, this with the latest resignation, that spot is officially open for me to be able to offer a contract. Steve Weber has also been driving for the district for 2 years. Started as a sub, drove van, has been just an absolute jackknife for us to be able to pull out any tool that we need and drive and help and support us. We really appreciate him and all the bus drivers for all of their work throughout this pandemic. And again, just want to make sure that he feels valued and honored part of our staff that he has been. So this is just the contract for the remainder of the school year for Steve Weber, and again, he'll be on our list for next year, one of our 6 drivers. So
I'll make a motion to approve Steve Weber.
I'll second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Shelley to approve the letter of appointment for Steve Weber for the remainder of the 2021-22 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, administrative reports, Mr. Chaplin.
Thanks, Julie. My items here aren't quite as exciting as the earlier presentation, but ACT administration was given on March 8th. All students were present, so we don't have to do any makeups, so that is good. I'd like to thank all the staff that made everything go smoothly, and staff that did all the prep work with those juniors, as well as how the administration went. So, and as well as the custodians that did the setup at the old school. So thank you everyone for that. And then students should get those results about 6 to 8 weeks, and it'll come on their personal logins. And then the school will get paper copies later on. And then the results of that district-wide will be later in the summer, fall. So. And then more testing, everyone's favorite thing, forward exam window opens next week. And that's for students in 3rd through 8th grade for reading and math. And then students in 4, 8, and 10 also have to do social studies and science. So, and then the Aspire opens at the end of the month, or actually beginning of April. And those will be for freshmen and sophomores. And I did attach the testing times that takes. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaplin. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Julie. It looks like integrity is the word of our March word of the month for our PBIS program. We work on that all month. We teach about it in the classrooms, work with the students. Just an update for everybody on school, summer school timeline. We got some communication with parents. We got some registrations sent home. And then when registrations are due, all of that will be communicated with parents here soon. And then just a reminder that changing summer school this year to June 20th through July 8th. I hope to keep that in front of the fair. And so we can make that solid. This year is a little goofy with a lot of things because people that were expecting it to be more in July. So I think now that people are happy that it's earlier and not affecting the fair, but people also had plans already for the end of June. So working through it, staffing is coming along, and class offerings will be expanded from what we did last year. And I haven't run a normal summer school yet here, so hopefully we can make that happen. Give the kids a good experience. Just 4K as update. I think that number says 33. So when I typed this, it was 33, but it's 36 as of today. And like I said, we're getting kids that aren't even on our radar. They do live in Bangor, but for some reason they're not on our list. So that's kind of been interesting. These are all numbers that have been confirmed at this point. And then parent-teacher conferences, you can see 93% turnout. Vast majority of them were virtual. I would say the average in person was somewhere around that 4 to 8 parents per classroom that were in person. So I think they liked the flexibility of it. I think it went pretty well. I just want to give a shout out real quick to Dawn and Kristen for their time and effort, their leadership over just my tenure here of a short 2.5 years. Their presence and guidance. I've talked with both of them about how to do different, how to work with different scenarios, and I appreciate their guidance along the way. And you look out the back of our building, you see Nature's Recipe. Kristen had all kinds of fingerprints on that, and fighting for those types of experiences for kids. And I think that, and Dawn just a leader in the whole building of her professionalism all the time. Her knowledge base is irreplaceable. So, how do you replace, 60 plus years of talent, and that's a big task. We won't be able to replace that, but we'll be able to get someone there and do a good job. And these two started young in their life too. And now they know far more than they did. So we'll go with other kids get the opportunity to go down that journey, I guess. A year ago or 2 years ago today, I came to school and basically had to tell staff we were going virtual on Wednesday, right? Remember that day? So a shout out to my staff because we actually shortened it up one day. We ended up, our last day in person was Tuesday. And I remember sitting in the library with the staff and saying that we're going to do this. And literally they all just said, okay. And you know, it was a real poor me opportunity. What are we doing? How are we going to, what? Not one. They got it done. And I think that you look back at this experience and the district positioned itself so well compared to other districts with our access to technology. You know, really 1 through 12 had access, and that was unheard of around us. It was nice if other districts had 312 access, 412 access. And I just give a shout out to my staff and the K-12 staff, 4 K-12 staff, because this has been brutal for 2 full years. And I think we can celebrate them and the work that they did. And then one last quick one, congratulations to Jacob and Nick, 2 of my staff members, getting it done on the basketball court, the whole basketball staff. I'm super excited. We're going to do the parade tomorrow through the school, the hallway. Kids are going to love it. And then we'll come over and participate in the assembly. It's the first time we'll be at the assembly in person in 2 years.
That's cool.
So super excited about the whole community and the whole opportunity. So thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Thank you. Mr. Mullenberg?
As I had shared, Rick is not here this evening. He's just got one thing on this report, and that is the parent-teacher conference update. And Mike just briefly had that on there as far as the number of conferences and the percentage of conferences. We had 255 individual spring conferences at the middle school and high school. I would say still a really good mixture of virtual and face-to-face, and I think that was probably similar at the elementary as well. I think that virtual option will continue for families for many years. I think people have found that that's really, for many of them, very convenient. I still smile when I hear, you know, well, dad was on from his police car and mom was at work, and, you know, we were able to get the conference done, and, you know, just things like that. So I think it's a great opportunity that we continue to offer for our families. So Rick's also got some of those upcoming dates. Yep, he's planning out there. So there, I know that the prom committee has been working really hard, and you know, obviously all those groups starting to plan for those senior events and stuff as well. So lots going on. It gets pretty busy. All right.
Thank you. Go ahead, David, with your report.
Thank you. I just, you know, just a couple of real brief, Nexus has been in the buildings, continued to be in the buildings. They're spending more time away and designing and calculating and figuring right now than they are here. They will be back next Tuesday. And Mike and I think have about a 4-hour meeting talking about deferred maintenance that's supposed to be really, really fun, going through and talking about the age of things and where is that in our cycle as far as how soon we think we should be replacing and those types of things. So it's really important work that's being done at this point in time. Some concepts starting to be developed that we're preparing, and I would hope April. If not April, May for sure, we're going to start to see some of those things come to the board level and start to get some input from the community at that point in time. So it's a lot happening behind the scenes now. The work that they're doing, the number of different people that have been in and out of the buildings, really assessing all aspects of our facilities has been, it's been kind of neat to watch. So that's kind of where Nexus is right now. The ESSER 3 application, I wanted to talk just 2 brief things on that. ESSER 3 application, we had a deadline of March 11th to start to submit the first level of application. There are 2 points with that I think are really important. One is the community input part. And I really, really feel confident or feel that it's going to be important to have some of that information that Nexus is gathering for us as we get that community input towards some of those ESSER dollars as well. So that part, I have acknowledged that we've talked about it as a board, but we will be doing more community input down the line. As we've discussed as a group, and the only things that I put in there for budgeting are a few of those intervention type positions that we've talked about strategically using each year, those intervention positions that we've created to get to that 20% mark. So those are placeholders in there right now to make sure that we were compliant and got that first round in. But I think really it's those full planning sessions yet to come once we have a little idea on some of our facility needs that are going to help us plan for the rest of those ESSER dollars moving forward. Insurance Center has put out our RFPs and they have started collecting some of those information. Both of our current health insurance and dental insurance have provided their numbers back. We're still hoping that to get some competitive bids to at least push one against the other type thing. We are planning for an April presentation to the board. So we'll do that on April 20th with the different options and some proposals for how to make sure those numbers are where we need them to be as a district. So lots of work being done on the insurance center's part right now to make that all happen. So last time I talked about the board members attending the PLCs at work in August from the 8th through 11th. Lisa has said that she's in, so we will begin to plan for that for her joining the team in Minneapolis this summer. And then I just had to put it on there as well because our boys basketball have a game Friday. That's a kind of a big deal. And I just, I know that Bangor has been in the news a little bit. I will just say that I've had some really nice, and Julie's had a nice email as well, communications with Southwestern from a district standpoint, and from a coaching standpoint. I can't ask for anything more of our athletes and our kids than to play to the absolute last second of a game. And when they had the opportunity in overtime, even as we had 4 kids foul out in overtime, that was next man up, and they just continued to play to the very, very end of that game. And it was an incredible win. And I think as a coach, and as our coaching staff, they should feel very proud of those boys, of those athletes. They should feel very proud of of those efforts. And I truly, it has been an awesome ride, and I hope we don't have to get off anytime soon. So wish that team the absolute best as they travel down to Madison, and looks like they're going to have a great time, and best of luck to them at the tournament this weekend. So any questions for me?
Yeah, congratulations to the kids. I think that's awesome. I'm curious, what's the staff plan for that day? Because it's a professional development day.
We have given that staff off that day.
So the whole staff have the day off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, removal of items from the consent agenda. I just want to review the consent agenda because there are quite a few topics. A is current openings, B, open enrollment apps, C, the recurring overnight 7th grade Poinet trip. And Michelle Harper does have a little blurb about that in your packet. The F, family medical leave is D. E is a resignation. And F is the ECCP and SCN college classes. And I think that's it. But quite a few items, so I just want everyone to know what those were.
Julie, I know there was conversation about the ECCP. I can talk briefly about it now, and you can vote it in the consent agenda if you want to pull it from there. So we could have a more lengthy conversation about this in the future. Basically, what we look at with this is every option that a student could take. It's not necessarily that every every one of these classes will be taken by multiple students or any students. These are just the options that would be offered at this point in time. The state of Wisconsin says that students can take up to 18 credits. So I think that's an important consideration when just looking at how many credits the students can take of those courses.
So totally
Total.
18
Yep,
credits.
they can take up to the 18. So one of the conversations that we've had is that this provides Bangor, which is a small school district, opportunities that they may not be able to get any other way. And we feel that that is an important thing and something that is the reason that this has been put in place. What has happened is because we have so few options within our building, if a student picks a class and that contradicts or is scheduled conflicts with at the same time as, say, an English class that is offered here, we allow them to take the English class outside of the district as well, so that they can get both in. So that is increasing our numbers. If we were to change the way that we do that and say, if that English class is offered here, you have to take that here, you have to schedule here first, so you can't take the class that you wanted, it would drastically reduce the number of classes that students are taking. It would really, really do that. So then it just becomes a philosophical on, do we want to create the opportunities and support the opportunities for kids, or do we want to be more restrictive so that the kids can only take them after they, build their schedule here? The issue is that our schedule becomes pretty restrictive because we just don't offer very many sections of the classes that sometimes they're ending up taking at those classes. So if it's available here, it is our hope that they take it here, but there are times that it's available here and they still take it elsewhere because one of the other classes they take conflicts with it here. So there's a lot of questions on that. Again, we can bring that back and we can have more in-depth conversations about it in the future if you would like. But again, these classes are just what they have to choose from. They're not necessarily all classes that we have kids signed up for yet.
So this list used to be a request list, so that has changed then. I mean, we used to see only the list of classes that somebody has requested, and now we're seeing.
Yeah.
Right, so now we're seeing whatever's available.
Yeah, so we have brought you additional ones throughout the year that weren't necessarily approved earlier in the year. And this is just all of them that we anticipate being used, but there still may be one or two that we add along the year, and then maybe a couple of these aren't used.
Is there a timeline where these have to be approved, or can we bring it back for further discussion?
That's a great question for Rick that I can't answer right now.
Consent agenda and talk about it now if you like.
Well, you would need that question answered from Rick, and because I can't answer it.
Sure.
I'll remove it from the consent agenda so we can talk about it.
Okay, she needs a second.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to remove item F, I believe, is that right? From the consent agenda for further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Do we want to talk about it now, or do you want to put it on the agenda, or or do we need to, I don't know what Robert's Rules of Order is for that.
I think, we could still approve it. I mean, if there's other questions, again, it's what the district feels, what the board feels they want to support.
Okay.
So it has been something that's grown, and you guys were sitting in the meeting when we talked about this as an admin team. It's been something that's grown because when they pick a class and then all of a sudden they can't take the class here, then they've taken another opportunity there. It's been well supported. I mean, it's been, very appreciated by the families. The students do have to pass it. If they don't pass it, then they have to reimburse the district for that. So there's some standards to that they have to do their part when we pay for that.
Is there like a cost evaluation that's been done as far as if we offer classes that they're taking at WTC or UWL or wherever it is, I guess what is the financial difference?
This is way cheaper because if we were to add, we would have to add staffing. So you're talking an FTE.
What if the
No,
class is
no.
already
If
offered?
it's offered
David?
here and they're taking it somewhere
Like say,
else, I guess
I
why
don't
are
know if we
paying for that?
offered general
Yeah.
psychology.
So one of the things we talked about, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things we talked about that what we pay total in enrollment for all of our programs for the year is probably about a quarter of a teacher. So if we were to try to offer more of these classes and have to hire more staff to have more sections of, or pay overloads for teachers, this is still more cost effective. It's also one of the things that it's creating opportunities for our families and encouraging them to stay here in district because they give those opportunities that has, again, we don't want somebody to open and roll out because they can get more opportunities somewhere else.
You just spent $20,000 on a basketball game roughly. If you gave every teaching staff a day off, I think we can afford to pay for some classes for some kids who are going to hopefully do great things. Like, I think this is a wonderful program. I don't know, Shelley, what your question is. I'm going to tell you. I know these, can you ask what your question is? Because I might be able to answer it. I'm just curious.
No, I was just, I guess, a little bit was it to what Lisa was saying, that how many kids are taking a class that we offer here because it conflicts with another class. I was wondering what the numbers were there,
Kelly, I think the number, Rick commented on that and he said the number is fairly low, but it does happen. And I think that he put the whole list, like Joni, you were asking about the whole, now you're seeing the whole thing. He just wanted to highlight the fact, I think the board's message overall, over time I've been here and before, was to offer as many different opportunities as we can for our kids. I think that's why he was looking at the holistic part of it.
Sure.
And the number is, I believe he said the number is fairly small and I think it's low single digits.
Okay.
But I believe that's what he said. So it's not a massive problem, but it does happen. And I think just being straight up about that, it does happen. But it does happen as a result of offering something.
Right.
So it's a good,
right.
It's good for kids. And the board has asked him to be continually looking at different opportunities, just expanding opportunities. And that's why he's sharing all of it, I think.
I just saw the list grow exponentially. So I'm like, okay, are that many kids taking general whatever?
Here's why, because you put all the classes on the list that you think you might take. You don't know the schedule yet. You don't know the UWL schedule or the Western schedule. So you list all the classes and then maybe you can fit one class in. So I guarantee there's kids that put 5 classes down that can maybe take one.
Okay.
So it looks bad, or I shouldn't say bad. I think it looks great. Like I said.
I was just curious if we had that much
I think we should
more.
approve every one of them. But it's kids put 5 classes or 20 classes, but maybe only 1 or 2 will work. Now, I hope we have some kids who take who are done with Bangor and go for a year. But I think most kids want to take a class or 2 and get started. So they put every class, then they only have to come once. And they'll go, oh my gosh, this digital photography didn't work, but my art history class will work. So then we'll get another one in October that says, will you approve art history class? So they went and looked through everyone that they thought would work and put it on there. So I
That
really
makes
don't think.
sense.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
And the benefit for our students to do this is really massive at the next level in terms of benefit to our kids. Having 2 kids that are either in or out of school already, just in learning that, they were pretty limited in the number of credits that they could enter college with. And they went against kids. My students went to Minnesota school. So they were running into students from Minnesota that were already sophomores as freshmen because of this very opportunity expanded in the Minnesota schools. So anything we can do to support that idea and give benefit to the incoming freshmen at the college level, it's the right thing. It's just a great thing.
Joni, it's expanded too because there used to be limitations, like UWL limitations. You had to be in the top 5% or 10% in those limitations.
You know what, Chappie, I'm glad you brought that up. So what is the expectation now?
I believe it's
not
open.
top 5?
I believe it's
I think
open.
it's open to everyone.
Open, okay.
Now, It's
A
open.
parent asked me and I didn't know.
It's open, but they have to pass the class or they have to pay it back. So
So
they're-
there's
they're
no
agreeing to
top
that.
5 or 10% anymore,
Well,
open to,
that's why it's expanded as well.
okay.
Sure.
So it's open to all students, but they have to pass the class, of course, to get credit, like you would, right? Okay.
Thank you for,
Yeah, thanks for these clarifications.
yep.
Sorry, do we need to approve that
Yes.
separate then from the
Yes,
thing? Okay,
because we
so,
took it off.
so I'll make a motion to approve the listing of the classes that were listed under F, ECCP and SCN college classes.
And this is just for this coming school year. I mean, it may change for the next school year.
Right, for the 2022, 2023 school year. And I may come back to you mid-year with a couple more classes that kids would like to take.
I'll second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve the ECCP and SCN college class list for 2022, 2023 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
abstained.
Great discussion. Good
I
questions
abstained because I
answered.
have a kid who might take one.
Pardon, Jack?
She
abstained
abstained
because
because she might have a kid that
Oh,
took one. Jean
Of
got it.
course, got it. Thank you.
So you need the consent agenda?
No,
You
consent
need-
agenda.
Now the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Lori to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
No, we're gonna go to closed session. We have no action items that will come out of closed session. I'd like to propose that we let John shut down here and our minutes will reflect the time that we adjourn in closed session. But with no action item to come back and do, I think it would just be more efficient. Then they can get cleaned up and be done for the evening. Is that acceptable?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Lori, and I'm just gonna, what David said. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So now we need to actually adjourn into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Tina. Roll call vote. We will start with Joni.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you.